Welcome everybody in our Sydney Experience Centre to this CPA event. It's an interesting event for us. We've got several hundred people who've dialed into us who will be with us online in a virtual fashion. So for those who've dialed on online, welcome. And I don't know where to look actually. It's quite puzzling how this all works. I can see the whites of your eyes, but for those who are online, welcome. Great to have you on. You'll be participating with us and asking a lot of questions. My name is Michael Ozypop. I'm Telstra's Director of Capability and Innovation. No one ever really understands what that actually means, but possibly least of all me. But I spend most of my time with leadership teams of large Australian companies. I run around behind the CEO of our business, David Thodey, and the Chairman, Catherine Livingstone, trying to help organisations make sense of actually what's taking place in the market and how rapidly it all evolves. And for folks like yourselves, CPA participants, change is the inevitability. It continues to take place at a great rate of knots. And one of the themes we'll talk about at length tonight will be innovation and how do you differentiate yourself and how do you take advantage of what is a significant set of changes which take place. But it's probably best if I better talk about my children first, because it's probably the most salient way to sort of get a handle on what's taking place. Has anybody ever had a child that wasn't especially good at school? Anyone gone through that process? Everyone wants to be quite polite. Good on you. You're with me. So I appreciate your support. And I'm sure everyone at home's probably got that moment where your kids are a bit sort of naughty at school. My second daughter really couldn't ever settle at school. Everything distracted her. And when that happens, as you'll attest, you become quite good friends with the teacher, yeah? And so we do get quite good friends with this teacher, and she said, I don't know what it is with Sarah, she just won't settle down, it's terrible. Anyway, eventually it all changed. It all changed one day in a drawing class. And my daughter, as usual, was sitting at the back of the room, as far back in the back row she can possibly get. And she's drawing so seriously that her tongue is sticking out. She's concentrating like she's never concentrated before. The teacher goes down to her and looks at my daughter and says, what are you drawing a picture of there, Sarah? And without looking up, my daughter says, I'm drawing a picture of God. Now, my daughter never looks up. And the teacher said, that's interesting. Sarah, how can you draw a picture of God? Nobody knows what God looks like. And again, without looking up, my daughter says, well, they will in a minute. Now, the reason I share it with you, and there's lots of cyber laughing going on. I expect sort of little likes to come up like that. But the reason I tell you that is that, you see, when you're 6 years old, you have no doubt in your mind that you can draw God, right? If my daughter was drawing the devil, I would say she'd have a very likely perspective of getting a great likeness, because I think she knows the devil better than God. But still, the thing is, she has no hesitation about what she's doing, yeah? And think about what you were like when you were 6 years old. You don't have all the facts, you don't have all the details, but you know quite confidently you can do certain things. And then we come off and we start our jobs and we start our businesses and we go and work for banks and we work for telcos and we work in insurance, we work in construction, and we consult and we service all of these businesses, and all of a sudden we start to get data hungry. And we suddenly get to a point we don't want to take a chance, and we actually get quite complacent. Or not complacent, we get sort of restricted in what we actually wind up doing. And sometimes we lose that 6-year-old perspective where, hey, I can draw a picture of God and I don't have all the facts and I'm quite comfortable I can actually make that happen. And I guess to a large degree that actually fuels some of the thinking we have, which is in innovation, which is how is it that all of a sudden we had that beaten out of us? How can we actually get to the point of what is possible? And think about the number of times where you've had a really good idea but you didn't follow it up because you didn't have your kind of that level of confidence. And think about the companies which use service as CPAs, providing advice and consultation to them. Think about the times they have really good ideas and your advice is to help them be successful, but again the question becomes, how do you help them be innovative? How do you help them take that risk? How do you allow them to be brave so they make good decisions? And it's actually incredibly challenging. And so I want to pick up on that theme to a very large degree tonight. Now, you're not going to get to listen to me for very long, which is probably good. We've got some great speakers tonight, and then we're going to have a very interesting panel session. We're going to have interactive panel sessions. We're going to take questions from the floor. So we want you to work hard. We're going to take questions from our guests who are actually online with us today. And for those of you who are online, let me assure you we're having wonderful weather in Sydney. It's 28 degrees and balmy outside. Anybody want to... It's not. It's raining and cold here. So for you guys who've come in, it's terrific. But I can tell you it's wet outside, so you're in the right place. But without any further ado, I really would like to call upon Peter Doherty, who's the lead of CPA, to sort of perform the official welcome to all of you. So, Peter, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for I welcome the opportunity to partner with Telstra in tonight's event on technology. The event itself is a perfect example of how technology is changing the way we deliver knowledge. Tonight we have the opportunity to present knowledge via a traditional face-to-face methodology, but at the same time stream live on online and ask our online participants to be interactive with us. So it's very, very important tonight that you think of the questions for the panel later tonight. In CPA Australia's Firm of the Future report, we looked at what the future for accountants would look like. And a key component of that report looked at the impact of technology and how technology will impact the small to medium-sized accounting firm and also the services provided by accountants' clients. The report itself focused on knowledge management, emerging software, automation of financial data, the mobile workforce, where your competitor was not the accountant down the street, but the accountant in the next city, in the next state, or overseas. Tonight's an opportunity to reflect on how technology is changing, how the cloud's impacting how accounting businesses operate, and how technology can be used to innovate the way we do business. So thank you once again for Telstra for hosting tonight's event, and I look forward to your participation.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Before I call upon Brendan to come and say a few words as well, I will also just do the other thing which we always have to do in these events. I meant to do it before. For those of you who are our customers, thank you. I never say it often enough or publicly enough. In many cases, we look after your personal organisations as CPAs, and we also look after you as consumers in many cases. And we never, ever come up and tell you thank you regularly or publicly enough. Seriously, if you think that's not treated seriously inside our business, I can tell you, every one of my colleagues here, every single day, every single meeting, we talk about how do we serve our customers more effectively. And I know Nick will echo the same commentary from CBA when he speaks. So sincerely, on behalf of our organisation, thanks. Thanks for your custom. I'm going to call upon Brendan Donoghue to come up and make an official welcome on behalf of our organisation to you all, and then we'll move on to the main event. So, Brendan, please come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Michael. So, first of all, a big welcome. Welcome on behalf of both Telstra and CPA, and welcome to the people that are on the virtual event. I think it's a fantastic way of us showing what's possible and what else you can do to connect to your customers and your key stakeholders. So, I want to echo Michael's points around those of you who are our customers. A big thank you. And for those that aren't a customer, I'll be handing out business cards at the... I'm joking. So, really wanted to take you through tonight around transformation and the role that all of you play in transformation, and what your role is in that journey, and how technology is changing and changing at a much more rapid rate than we've ever seen before. A few years ago, I was saying, what a great environment we're in for businesses to transform and the opportunities, and in the last 2 years, it's pretty much doubled again. So we're in an environment at the moment where the rate of change is just increasing, and I think a lot of people see that the risk as in change. I'll tell you now, the risk is not changing, because the rate of change we're seeing with our customers and people that you work with is changing so fast at the moment. We're really struggling to keep up with the environment. So it's a great opportunity, and I think you are all uniquely positioned to take the customers on that journey and really show that your value to an organisation, whether you're part of an organisation as an accountant or whether you're an advisor to a business. There's so many opportunities, and you'll hear about some of them tonight, that businesses have gone through for transformation, and there's so many opportunities still yet to embark. So we live in a fantastic time with fantastic opportunities, and hopefully we could share some of those tonight and open your eyes to the role that you can play in that transformation. So once again, I really thank you for coming to the event. Thank you for being Telstra customers. For those who are in the room, make the most of being in our Experience Centre. This is where we show off all of our technologies to our customers. And for those on the virtual event, welcome to some of the technologies that we have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, great, Brandon. I'm going to bring in our guests who are online. We're going to send out a polling question. We want to sort of test the water. So I'll get you to bring up the first of the polling questions for me up on the stage. This is only open to our guests who are actually logged in online. So we're going to post the first question. The first question is, as a CPA, You provide strategic business advice to your clients and or across your business. Do you say yes to that or do you say no to that? We'll do a quick poll and see what comes back. And normally a little spinning circle comes up, like those of you who are on slow-speed broadband. I assure you it's not much fun. If you have high-speed broadband, it goes really quick and it's really good. So we'll just get a quick poll on that. For those of you at home playing along, who says yes, who says no? And you in the room can try and guess what the answer will be, and the nearest closest to the pin will receive some enormous prize, maybe a car perhaps. Anything coming back? What do you think? 80%. Does that sort of ring true for you folks? For those online, you would have seen 80%. Now, before I bring Nick up from CBA, I want to take a second. I spent a bit of time with Randy Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg's sister, who runs that little company called Facebook, some of you may have heard of. And she was in Melbourne last week, and we spoke together at a conference, and I spent a bit of time on a panel. We were looking at all kinds of crazy things which come along. You know, using 3D printers, which we have on display out here, the Chinese have actually perfected building a house in 24 hours out of a 3D printer. It gets to a point with a 3D printer where, in theory, if you go away on holidays, you can actually turn up with just a pair of shoes, a pair of shorts and a dirty T-shirt. When you get to your hotel, you print out your clothing. You can print food out. From a practical angle, they're getting pretty close to being able to actually manufacture a liver with something like this. That transforms industries. That transforms the way in which medicine will be delivered. When you talk to the previous Premier in Tasmania, Lara Giddings, she will tell you that the gross domestic product of that state doesn't cover their health bill by 2016. Now think about that for a moment. They can't pay their health bill. So something fundamental has to change. Business models are under profound change. You'll hear it endlessly. And the one I like at the moment is, you know, there's a company in North America that's released a product. It's a nail polish product that sparkles when you enter a Wi-Fi zone. Anybody here excited? That'll probably make men wear nail polish. It's an active ingredient. Now, we've got Nick Aronson from CBA, but before I bring Nick up, I just want to sort of share one other thing. I was lucky enough to spend a little bit of time with Ian Narrab, the CBA CEO. And what's really interesting when you talk to someone like Ian and spend some time with him, Nick will attest to, he's the most impressive fellow. He said, you know, 90% of what we do as an organisation, as a bank. Now, note this is the CEO talking, not the CIO or the CFO or the CMO or the COO. This is the CEO talking. 90% of everything we do as a bank in terms of differentiating our product set, making our organisation more secure, taking cost out of our business, making our roles more efficient for our staff, they can become more engaged, being able to provide better services to the way in which we treat our customers, and making ourselves competitive into the future. 90% of everything we do is all directly related back to ICT. And the thing is, if we get it right, it represents the best bet for us to be competitively differentiated, and if we get it wrong, it represents the biggest risk. Now, you may have just seen an advertisement which CBA have started running. I do want to just take a second on this because this gives you an idea of just how compelling this is. With CBA, and this is the only bank that can do this, if one of you goes to Melbourne, for example, and you need some money from me, you can ring me up. And I'll say, whereabouts are you? Oh, I'm in Collins Street in Melbourne. You've lost your wallet. I can transmit $50 to an ATM machine there. You don't need a card. You'll get a PIN number from me, which proves it's actually from me. And you go to the ATM machine, you punch the number in, and $50 comes out. Now, when you ask Michael Hart, who's the CIO at CommBank, about this, he will tell you 3 years ago, with the computer equipment they had, it would have taken them probably $1 million to consider the idea. And then it would have taken, somewhere between 10 and 18 million to actually test the idea, where normally what they do is look for a no, so that there was no risk in it. And it will probably take you 2 years to come to market. Today, that idea is in play. It was built for less than $10,000 and in under 90 days. CBA is an organisation that is transforming the future and transforming the way in which they serve their customers. I'm personally delighted that we have Nick Aronson join us tonight, and he's going to impart some, what I believe will be fascinating information for you, and then we can grill him on the panel as well. So without any further ado, Head of Transactional Banking, CBA, Nick Aronson. Welcome, Nick.
Michael. Thank you. Cheers. It takes a brave man to open a conversation with a joke about God. Michael and I were talking earlier about opening presentations with jokes, and I stopped making banker jokes a little while ago. Bankers don't find them funny, and no one else thinks they're jokes. So we'll move into some conversation, I guess, around innovation and why we're here. And I think there's often a conversation about innovation as an end in itself. We often hear conversations around why are we innovating? We've got to innovate. We've got to be innovative. Everybody's got to be innovative. And that's true. It's absolutely true. But I think one of the dangers of that discussion is the fact that innovation is not an end in itself. Innovation is a means to an end. So what I want to have a little bit of a discussion about tonight, and hopefully continue when we have the panel and engage those of you who are online as well, is why do we innovate? What is innovation about? And what are the principles behind innovation? And to me, the innovation journey is one of, first of all, understanding your customer. Second of all, using that understanding to improve the services you deliver to a customer. Improving the productivity with which you deliver that. And then using all of that to improve the relationship you have with a customer. That's what it's all about. The question then becomes, well, why? Why are we doing it? And ultimately, we all work within an organisation that is in business to do something. Generally, there's a financial outcome. Some of us are lucky enough to work in organisations where there is a social outcome, in non-profits and things like that as well. But ultimately, we're in business to deliver an outcome. And the challenge is that often we can't see the wood for the trees. We can't see the forest for the trees. And so I think the starting point for any discussion around innovation is an understanding of what is it that you are in business to do. For those of you who are independent operators running your own businesses, that is going to be different for those of you who are working in organisations yourselves. But the fact of the matter is that if we don't have an eye on the vision, then that's where things start running off the rails. And so the first thing I would encourage you all to do is really have a think about what's your vision for your organisation? What's the vision? And it's when you start having a conversation, it all sounds a bit airy-fairy, but it's when you start having a conversation about that vision and what you're around to do, that's when things get interesting. That's when you realise where the opportunity lies. And make no mistake, we talk about change all the time. Michael made the point that the pace of change is unrelenting. This is no longer a cycle of change. It's a constant. And we have to get used to it. And so from my perspective and from the perspective of CBA, it's what do you do with that pace of change? How do you stay relevant? How do you not let it overtake you? A good chunk of what we and you, there's some similarities here, charged our customers for 10 years ago is now delivered for free, disintermediated on the web. So how do you stay relevant in that environment? With all of this sort of stuff going on, how do we add value? And from my perspective, it's about capability and it's about insight. And that's where the interesting discussion around innovation comes to the fore. Understanding customers has to change. There used to be a mentality in business that you could guide a customer. And to some degree, you still can. But ultimately, we are operating in a world now where customers have independent sources of information. They have instant access to information. And ultimately, we need to better understand what is actually going on in the customer's mind. In the old world, there was a delineation between marketing and sales and finance and HR and all of the various departments in organisations or various functions that you would want to cover. And ultimately, in the new world, that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's blurred. So the value that we get is not in the job that we do, it's in the insight that we can provide. And that's where we focus an awful lot of attention from a CBA perspective. A lot is said about big data, analytics. Again, it's a big theme, but again, it's not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. And so I would encourage you to really think about in your roles, what is it that you can add from an insight and analytics perspective. Where is it that you can get that data from? And understand that it's not just financial data anymore. When you look at where customers are spending their money, what customers are doing, that's when the value comes. So we go to extraordinary lengths. If I look at some of the journeys that CBA has been on, Michael mentioned the cardless cash. That was delivered very quickly and very cheaply. And the fact of the matter is the source of that idea was an extremely junior person sitting in one of our enterprise services teams who knocked on their manager's door and said, I've got an idea. Why don't we do this? I was out on Saturday night. I left my wallet at home. I couldn't get money. I rang mum. Wouldn't it be great if we could do this? And the ability to then use the insight that we had, the conversations that we had with customers, and go back and check the data and have a look at who was making withdrawals at what time and where they were making them, and understand, would this add value to our customers, is fundamental to the ability to innovate quickly. Yes, you have to have the systems. Yes, you have to have the mindset, but you have to have an understanding of the customer. If I look at another example, some of you who operate in the retail world and work for retailers or have retailers as clients, or hospitality companies, being whether they're cafes or hotels or whatever the case may be, as clients, may have seen some of the developments recently in point-of-sale EFTPOS technology. We're in the process of piloting and soon to launch a terminal called Albert. And Albert is a complete rethink of the point-of-sale terminal, of that EFTPOS terminal. For 20 years, it looked the same. Maybe we added a colour screen, maybe it went wireless, but effectively for 20 years, you've been looking at a hunk of plastic and metal, and it didn't matter whether you were Tiffany's or a cafe or a Caltex petrol station. The customer experience, when it came to pay for what you were paying for with your credit card, was identical. And as a financial services organisation, as a bank who provided these terminals, ultimately we were dictating to our customers, this is how you're going to accept a payment. We don't care necessarily, or we do care, but there's very little we can do about the customer experience, whether you're a high-end luxury goods or a petrol station. And that's fundamentally changed. Something like Albert, it's a touchscreen, secure Android-based terminal. It has the ability, it's infinitely expandable. It has the ability to load apps. It has cameras built into it. It has everything from contactless to Bluetooth built into it. And effectively what that means is that you can determine what customer experience you want at that point of sale. So someone like a high-end luxury goods retailer that we're talking to, we built a camera in there because we thought people could use it for scanning barcodes, and ultimately they're saying, no, we're going to use it to post photos of our customers to Facebook at the point that they're buying something. And, we put in NFC readers because we thought it would be a good idea. As you all know, tap and go is the current wave, I guess, in point-of-sale payment technology. But we've got customers who are looking at using that using the NFC readers for entirely different purposes, for stock take and RFID tags. So, when we went on that journey, what we had to do was really take a hard look at our customers and understand what our customers were doing. And that's the first step of innovation. We engaged a company called IDEO, which is one of the world's leading industrial design companies, to go and sit in retail outlets, sit at cafes, sit at retail shops, and watch customers transacting at that point of sale. And rather than ask a customer, the old Henry Ford adage, if I asked a customer what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Rather than ask a merchant what it is they wanted, actually observe what the customers were doing and build solutions from insight. And so I think that's the first lesson for us around innovation, is that innovation comes from insight and analysis and understanding. It's absolutely a creative process. Absolutely, you need people to come up with the ideas, but you're not going to come up with the ideas that make the difference unless you understand what your customers are doing. A lot of that insight, as I mentioned, comes from analytics, the big data. And we use that in every interaction. We can track customer logons to NetBank to half-time at major football games. It used to be that people would go to the bank. It would be a huge outing to go to the bank and see the bank manager, and now they're literally doing their banking at half-time at football games. And so we're able to deliver services tailored to people when they're doing their banking. And again, that comes from clearly understanding what they're doing and when they're doing it. So once you understand your customer, once you've used all the data at your disposal to ask the right questions, what do you do with it? And this is where we use that information to deliver better services. Innovation is an imperative. I think we've all come to terms with that. Whether or not we understand how we can innovate, I think everybody understands that we need to. But it's a difficult one. Now I made the allusion earlier when I was having a conversation that it's riding a tiger. Once you get on it, you can't get off. You get eaten. But by the same token, if you don't get on the tiger, you get eaten. But I think the important thing to remember about innovation, and using that customer analysis and understanding that we spoke about earlier, the important thing is understanding that innovation isn't only developing a cool new piece of technology or a cool whiz-bang product. And there are all sorts of innovation that you can drive within your organisations or leading your practices. There's innovation in product, but there's absolutely innovation in service delivery. There's innovation in process, smarter ways of doing things. There's innovation in structure. Depending on the model, there's anywhere from 5 to 13 different ways to innovate. And I think where we sometimes lose track and where we sometimes lose focus is we say, well, I'm not in a technology industry. I can't build a new innovative product. But the fact of the matter is that innovation is also in the way you deliver product. And we've seen that absolutely come to the fore in the way we deliver services. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a video now about an innovative way that we've looked at delivering services as opposed to a service or a product in itself. If we can go to the video, please.
Ever wondered which customers spend more, or where your key markets are, and how your cash flows through the week, the month, and the year? Daily IQ, the new Combiz analytics app, makes it simple. Every transaction is analysed and instantly broken down into cash flow, merchant insights, and customer insights. Log in and you're up and running. You can view up to 5 separate accounts, check balances, the cash in and cash out, and compare them by various time periods. And it's all updated daily. Do you know where and when your best sales take place, or how much your average transaction is? Now you'll know exactly. And how about customer insights? Are you already pretty savvy about your customers? Do you know your most common customer profile, as in age and gender? What about average spend per customer and per transaction? Or where they live? You can target them on social media or local advertising based on their age, location, and spend. And the Media Centre has market updates, insight reports, and the latest business news. For more information, go to combank.com.au/dailyiq.
So that's an example of, I think, an innovative service delivery as opposed to an innovative product. And what I mean by that is that's data that we have. We collect, we issue the most credit cards in the Australian market. About 25% of the credit cards in Australia are CPA credit cards. We are the largest, what's called a merchant acquirer in Australia, in that we have the largest share of the terminals that you pay through. And what that means is between those two things, plus what we see from an accounts perspective, we see one or both sides of about 40% of the transactions that take place in the Australian market on any given day. And what that does is provides an enormous wealth of information. So we started off by speaking about understanding our customer. The hard part there isn't collecting the data. The hard part there is knowing what to do with it. Right. So from our perspective, the innovation in delivering something like Daily IQ, the innovation in delivering an iPad tool that somebody can use, any business person, you, can use to understand more about your business is not about an iPad. It's not about an app. It's about what do you do with the information you have. So when we're talking about innovation, I think it's really important to understand in a services industry, you don't have to build something to be innovative. What you have to do is do something innovative. And so that's I think, an example of it. The next piece that I wanted to have a chat about is productivity. And it's an interesting topic and often, I think, disconnected from the innovation conversation. But in reality, productivity is an output, and it's how you realise some of the benefits of innovation. When you look with a productivity lens at what we do and how we deliver services, there's two ways of really looking at the benefits of a productivity drive. There's the ability to bank the benefits and say, okay, we've saved cost, we've saved headcount, whatever the case may be. Or you can reinvest the benefits and say, well, we've created capacity. So rather than letting 2 people go or 3 people go, we can redeploy them from back office to front office. Or rather than spending less on technology, we can spend on different technology. So there's 2 different lenses, I guess, to the productivity conversation. But the important thing from a productivity perspective is that productivity is not immune from the innovation conversation. And what innovation allows you to do is actually drive productivity through the organisation in a productive way, in a positive way, as opposed to a negative way. It used to be that you'd stand up in front of a company and you'd say, I've got some productivity ideas, and everybody would run for the hills because everybody thought their job was at risk. Well, if you look at the analyst reports on CBA and you look at CBA's productivity journey, it's been quite the opposite. And from our perspective, unlike some of our peers, and both domestically and globally, we've not announced any headcount reduction targets or anything like that, because the fact of the matter is that what we're doing is focusing extremely heavily on capacity and productivity, doing more with what we have. And rather than spending billions of dollars a year keeping the old technology running, we're not spending less on technology. We're spending billions of dollars a year on building what we believe to be the greatest banking technology platform in the world at the moment. And so I would urge you, when you think about innovation, when you look at the process of innovation, make sure you also keep an eye on the output of that innovation. And the output of that innovation is absolutely customer satisfaction. It's absolutely innovative services and products. It's absolutely, improved revenue, improved profitability. But it's also a productivity output. And finally, what happens as a result, and what have we seen? And the output of all of this is the customer relationship. Ultimately, we've gone from understanding the customer better, using that understanding to build better products. With those better products and that understanding, we've been more productive. We've managed to actually deliver better outcomes, both internally and externally. And as a result, we've seen much greater interaction with our customers. There's often a fear that technology and innovation can disintermediate you from your customers. But the fact of the matter is we are much closer to our customers than we ever have been before, because we understand what our customers want, we deliver, and we measure. And we're constantly measuring. It's a constant drive. And when you look at how we measure and look at what we're doing well and look at what happens when you get it right, bit of a shameless plug, the fact of the matter is that we have a record high share price. We're the 9th most valuable bank in the world by market cap at the moment. We have been number 1 in customer satisfaction for just about 18 months running, just short of 18 months running, in every segment in which we operate. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about small business or the institutional space or regional and agribusiness or private wealth. We are number 1 in every business in which we operate. And we have a whole host of awards to show for it, ranging from innovation awards to service awards and value awards. And the fact of the matter is this is not the objective. Well, you could argue that the share price piece might be. But the objective is not to win awards. That's recognition of what we've done. And the recognition comes from an idea and a concept of constructive innovation. Not innovation for innovation's sake, but innovation to actually deliver superior customer outcomes. And I think if you go back to the first point that I made and the first conversation around what is the vision for the business and what is it that you want to deliver for the business, if you keep an eye on that and innovate to that, you'll be in good stead. Change is not something to fear. Change is something to embrace, because ultimately that vision will provide you the flexibility to deliver what you need to deliver. So, I want to leave you, I think, with the 5 imperatives of innovation from my perspective that we can take away from the CBA journey. The first thing is I think you need a desire, an absolute desire, to allow your customers to do something better, faster, cheaper, whatever the case may be, whatever that outcome might be. That has to be the core of the innovation journey. Understanding your customer to allow them to do something better, faster, cheaper has to be the first step. The second thing is execution. Without execution, it's just an idea. And there are millions of great ideas, but if you don't execute and focus relentlessly on execution, it's not innovation. Don't kid yourself, it's a good idea. The third thing, and I mentioned this up early on, is that innovation is not an end unto itself. It is a means to an end. It's a means to deliver customer outcomes. It's a means to deliver improved profitability and revenues. It's a means to deliver whatever that business outcome or social outcome is that you're aiming to deliver. It's not an end in itself. If you focus on it as an end, you'll drive yourself crazy. The fourth piece comes down to you. Innovation is about people. Technology doesn't innovate. Technology provides you with the tools to do a better job at it, but technology is about people and the mindset that you bring to the business. And you have to bring a mindset of unquestioning devotion, I guess, to customer outcomes. And that is what's going to drive the innovation agenda. And finally, and this is the piece that I think is often overlooked, is that it has to be measurable. You are the people, you are the folks who see the outcomes. You are the guys who measure the outcomes and deliver the outcomes to the business. It's important right up front when you go on this journey to decide how you're going to measure results. Because you have to know whether you've been successful. You have to be prepared to fail, but you have to know whether you've been successful. And I think if you do those 5 things, you're on a fantastic journey to understanding your customer better, delivering better service outcomes, improving productivity, and at the same time improving the relationship with your customer. So I'm 3 minutes over time. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions when we sit at the panel. But back to Michael, I guess.
Yeah, please thank Nick for me. Can you just go back to their last chart for a second, the one back, the one before thank you? This is an epic effort. Again, having spent time there, and you don't realise what a big deal it is, but 6 years, when you draw the line in the sand to say we want to be number 1, 6 years, not much happens. And you stay at it, and you stay at it, and you stay at it. And now you see an amazing change. So really great to have you here, Nick. Fantastic. Really interesting. Hey, look, we're going to get the panel up here. We're going to bring some chairs along here, I think. But while it's going on, I want to ask a question of our Sydney audience. And can I get a show of hands? Who thinks people hate change? Who says people hate change here? We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Who reckons people like change? And who hates playing hands-up games? Not. Oh, okay, right. So for those who can't see that, we've probably got more people on the people like change side, slightly less on the people hate change side, and quite a few people don't like playing hands-up games. But I'm of the belief that people actually love change. I mean, think about it for a moment. You eat different food every night. You go to different places on holidays. I could ask any females in the room with less than 100 pairs of shoes? With anyone less than 100 pairs? You don't need 100 pairs of shoes. If you're a centipede, maybe that would be helpful. But people love change. What people hate is loss. If I said to every one of you as a CPA, right, tomorrow your job's completely changed. And when you get up in the morning, you'll be doing something totally different. Oh, by the way, you'll be getting paid $10 million per year. Would everyone be okay with that sort of change? I know some of you don't want to take a pay cut, but just imagine for those who would. Everyone okay with that change? And again, most people here are nodding about it. It's about loss. Loss is what people hate, particularly when you make large changes in organisations. And the second thing I want to pick up on now, while that's happening, can I invite our panellists to come up? You know who you are. And I want to ask one other question of everyone here, and then we're going to draw into the audience. I want to ask the question about, have any of you thought about the difference between what somebody wants as a customer and what somebody values as a customer. Have you ever thought about that? Let me try and make it come to life. Has anybody ever had a fight with someone, utility or not a bank, we won't touch the banks. What about a telco? Anyone ever had a fight with somebody where you wanted to get some money back? Anyone had one of those? Okay, great, you got your hand up. Was it us, by the way? Oh, thank goodness. I want to point out for those watching at home, it's not us. Okay, now let me just play this out. I've got a participant here. So you've had a bad experience. Let's imagine for a second, I make it really bloody hard to get your money back. I make you prove it, and you've got to ring me 20 times, and I make it really, really hard. But eventually you get your money back. That's what you want, right? Your money back. The guy's nodding. Right. Are you happy with me as a company? Right. What about we do it another way? We're terribly sorry, sir. We made an error in your favour. We wish we'd picked it up sooner. We'd like to transfer some money back. Now, we can take it off your next account with us, your next bill, or we can transfer it to you electronically, or we can send you a cheque, or would you prefer to come into one of our branches and, say, pick up some cash? And we have a little discussion about that, and then 2 or 3 days later I ring you up and say, has everything been sorted out? We're very sorry we made that error. You feel a bit different about me as a company? Slight improvement. But the thing is, you still got your money back. But the way you do it, yeah, the loss of time, yeah. But so just for those playing along at home, it's the loss of time is a challenge. But what I'm trying to get at is it's the way you do things as much as anything else. And I think that the commentary which Nick tables, which is it's not necessarily be doing something which is brand new and we've never been thought of before. It's actually the way in which you do things, the way in which you go about it. The term which I like from CBA particularly is empathy. When the customer gets you, it makes a huge difference. So we have a panel of experts here. Let me introduce them. I've got my form guide here. Now, starting from the far end, Nick, you know who Nick is. Nick's from CBA. And Brendan, who you know who Brendan is. That's great. Brendan's from our shed. Next along is Brent Zalzi, who's CPA head of SEVA, founder of SEVA. I'm going to get you to tell us a little bit about SEVA in a moment, Brent, but welcome along. That's great. And Jerome Barentius of... am I close? Close. Okay, good. Well, not that close, but so... All right, good. Jerome from KingCare and Andrew Shea from Complex Training. So please welcome our panellists. That's great. I'll get you all to tell us a little bit about what you're doing. But I want to go, can we go to a polling question? I want to just draw in the audience. I want to go to polling question number 2. This will set the scene for us. And polling question number 2, if you can bring it up for me. How much do you know about cloud? You have 3 choices. Quite a bit. I use cloud-based services in my business. Option 2, a reasonable amount, but could always learn more. And option 3 is very little. It's not top of mind at present. And I'll be very keen to hear what our guests in the room say. So we'll give you some thinking time. Actually, the guys at home can't see this, so let me get a show of hands. Who knows quite a bit in this room about that? Quite a bit. Who's on number 2, reasonable amount? Reasonable amount, and who very little? Not top of mind. Okay, quite a few. All right, that's good. Let's see how that compares to those at home. We'll see how accurate it is. What do you think? Oh, that's actually not dissimilar to what we're seeing in the room, folks, who are with us at home, which is good. So I know there are more than 3 people responding, just judging by the numbers. So that's good news for all of us. All right. Let me just throw to Andrew, first of all. Can I get you to tell us a little bit about your organisation?
Yeah, sure. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Complex Institute of Education. So we're a training organisation. We initially were very Victorian-centric and realised that the market trends and what the customers were asking for was that not only they could study at different times during the day and different models around Victoria, but also from interstate and more recently internationally. So we're now training in Victoria, very quickly moving interstate, and in China we've just signed a number of large agreements to deliver training within China over the next 7 years.
Great, thanks Andrew. And Brent, for those who don't know much about KingCare, can you share a little bit about your work?
Sure. My name is Jerome from KingCare. I'm the CIO for the organisation. KingCare as an organisation focuses on delivering in-home healthcare to elderly Australians, people with disability. Our primary focus is to keep people at home having a good quality of life. The organisation also provides services as a national training organisation and also as an after-hours call centre for other organisations like us in the community.
Thanks, Jerome. That's a massively growing area. We were with some guys, just to give you an insight, we were with some folks up in Queensland talking about aged care and the volume of people who are actually heading into it. I don't think there's anybody in this room or anybody watching online who is actually imagining, I can't wait to get to retirement home. And we're going to see with health services, we'll be more self-sufficient and stay at home for a lot longer. and you see that marketplace will evolve. But the work you guys are doing is just, courageous and fantastic. And sorry, Brent, maybe I'll get you to make some comments about your organisation.
Thanks, Michael. My name's Brent Saleh. I'm a CPA, like most of you are, and I have an accounting firm in Melbourne, accounting and wealth management, and I'm really enjoying what technology is being able to bring to our industry at the moment. There's a lot of disruption, and we're really embracing that to really enrich the relationships we're having with our customers. And I think the opportunity that we all have at our hands right now is significant. And I think just hearing some of the discussion today with Nick, I just sit there and think, wow, we are really blessed to be sitting there in front of our customers and have potentially that information coming into us, and what we do with it is, the innovation part of it, and I think that is the real opportunity. So that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah, terrific, Brent. Well, what we're going to do, so I want to invite everyone here to start thinking about questions which you may have for our guests, and also for those folks who are watching along at home, we're going to take questions from you guys as well. But I want to pick up really where you were, Nick, to begin with, so I might sort of get thoughts from others. And differentiation is the big game. It seems to me you could say, well, all the banks are the same, but we know that's not the case. And people could foolishly say all telcos are created equal. We also know that's not the case. All CPAs are created equal. Of course, that's not true. How do you think about differentiation for your organisations? And how do you know you're actually making progress in the mind of your clients? How do you know that you actually are providing something which is not just different, but valued? How do you go about that? So I'll leave that over to you. So I might start with you, Brent. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think our industry is traditionally based on, unfortunately, around compliance, and a lot of, due to the industry and the government making changes to legislation, accountants can have quite a successful business because of just adhering to what these regulation changes are. But I think now, with the technology and the way we can communicate with our customers, it allows us to have a much more enriched relationship with our customers, and it allows us to differentiate from traditional compliance services, and it's challenging us to go into a new area, which I think some of us aren't comfortable with.
Yeah, so you're not seeing digital, for example, as a channel to push you away from your customer. You see it as drawing them to you.
Oh, absolutely. I just think you look at some customers that are still doing traditional things, and to get hold of their information can take weeks. When the clients that are willing to jump on board with what we're doing, we can, with a few clicks of a button, anywhere, anytime, can see what they're doing. Now, what we can do with that is look forward and make decisions, which is just so powerful. Where I think in the past, they've just made decisions blindly and hoping that things go right.
Yeah. Similar thoughts for you, Jerome, when you address the aged care market?
Look, absolutely. I mean, in our industry, when you think about it, people sometimes ask, how can you be excited with technology in aged care? Traditionally, when we used to deliver services, we used to deliver it as a service in a box. You get this, you choose from either A, B, or C. But the reality is people want their own service customised to their own needs. We use technology today to actually model that and embed that in our system so that, a single visit, which is, for instance, a personal care visit, could be quite different from one person to another. And by having the systems in place where we actually capture the customer requirements, we're able to deliver that service continuously and, more importantly, consistently, regardless of who actually comes to people's homes. And you can't do that without a technology solution, one that's scalable. And our organisation at the moment is going through an enormous growth. 4 years ago, the organisation was $30 million, and today it's $100 million. And when you think about that scale, without the technology solution out there, you can't repeat that good customer experience.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at what's actually happening out there in government, there's definitely a tightening of budget. There will be a tightening on funding in this industry. We need to use technology for more innovative ways. People still want to get connected. So how can we utilise technology to make people feel at home connected, but more importantly, make people feel that they want to stay at home and still receive and perceive that they're receiving the same quality of care?
Yeah. One of the big things you hear in the health marketplace is this issue of loneliness, when people just get left behind. And the challenge might be they see the Wheels on Meals person once a day, and the Wheels on Meals person has to deliver 40 meals, so they can't stay there for very long, so there's that sense of disconnection. And the point is that a digital channel, it doesn't replace face-to-face, but it augments it with people being able to come in and you see them every day. And you're seeing that start to appear?
Look, we're doing that. We're about to start a pilot over in the mid-north coast where we're providing people with technology in their homes so that they can get connected with their family in a secure manner. But more importantly, that they can have access to the services that we provide, so the administration part of that, and give them control. You know, people, when you talk about change, people are not afraid of change. What they're afraid of is when they don't have control.
Yeah.
And I think if we use technology to give people control over their lives, people give control over their services that they actually get, they'll be more receptive to that change.
And that speaks directly back to where you were, Nick, with productivity, because you can see you can treat more people more consistently in the same amount of time as you would any other way. There's no alternative, really, for it. How about for you? You're heading to China, yeah, Andrew? Yeah, how do you differentiate there?
Yeah, China's one of the markets. What we've really started as a company is having a very clear strategic vision on what the outcomes are for our customers. And our whole business vision was to achieve employment outcomes. So if we can actually train an individual to get the skills and knowledge they require and then actually have an employment outcome, we've done our job. And that's really the market that we've been very, very successful in. Dealing with long-term unemployed, those who have learning difficulties or other disadvantaged individuals, and we've been successful doing so. Now looking at other markets where people are very time poor and want to progress their career opportunities, they want to be able to sit on the tram on the way into work and be able to study. They want to be able to grow and progress themselves professionally. That market we weren't able to cater to previously, and we had to listen to our customers and say, which part of the market share were we not able to cater to? What are the opportunities here? As part of those conversations, we said, well, let's not just limit our horizons to Victoria or to those actually unemployed, those disadvantaged, those actually looking at career progression in certain areas. Let's look interstate, let's look internationally. And in China, there's a huge amount of interest in Australian education at the moment. The difficulty is people look at it and say it's all too hard. We can't do it because how could we possibly set up a full campus and send across 30, 40, 50 lecturers to deliver training? And the only way is through technology and innovation to actually send across staff to still maintain the core competence of what we're delivering, but also use technology to actually achieve those outcomes that both that market is seeking and aligns with our strategic vision.
If I turn to some of Brendan and to Nick from large organisations, do you think that it's all good when you work in a big mothership, as we all do? If you're sitting there and you've got a smaller organisation, is it one where the barrier to participate using technology is actually getting further away, or do you think it's actually coming closer to the smaller guys, but it's necessary for us to get our heads around it? What views, maybe what advice might you have for some of our viewers online and some of our participants here today around that sizing thing? Is it all about the big companies that can do it and the smallies can't?
Yeah, I'll start. So, first of all, my role within Telstra is I've got a group of solution specialists around the country that look after small and medium business. So we're touching businesses every day of the week and working with customers around solutions. I actually think that it's now the opposite. And if I look at companies like ours, Telstra, if we want to make a change, it's normally a pretty big event. It takes a lot of planning and it takes a lot of work. Not because of the technology, but because of the behavioural change. And what we're seeing is some of the technologies at the moment, and things like cloud, mean that small businesses can turn up on a Monday, get in a meeting room for a couple of hours and say, this is the new process on how we're going to do things, and be running a new process. I actually think that some of the solutions coming out now actually change everything and turn it upside down, because previously you needed deep pockets, you needed to roll things out, you needed to customise it specifically for your business. With a lot of the technologies now, they're scalable, they're off the shelf, you buy them over the internet, you pay $10, $20 a month per user, and you're off and running. For us, running as an organisation called Telstra, to do that, there's a fair bit of work in that. For a small business with, say, 5 staff, that's a relatively easy step. So I actually think that it's reversed and it's actually starting to shift and turn on its head.
Yeah. With your advice, Nick?
I completely agree. Before I was at CPA, I actually ran a medium-sized business, and before that I was also back in large corporate land. And I think one of the interesting things is technology is the great democratiser or the great leveller. Yes. And what you see is in industries that historically have been absolutely dominated by large players, whether that's in retail or banking or telecommunications or whatever, industry you're thinking of where in the past there's been domination by large players. Those industries are all being turned on their heads by the ability of small companies to find niche areas to make a difference and compete and really, pick off the bit where there is opportunity. And the only way that's been able to happen is the use of technology. All of a sudden, you can be, a three-person organisation sitting in a garage in Palo Alto, and you can take on the world. Yeah. That couldn't happen 20, 30 years ago. So it's absolutely the leveller. It's the opposite. Yeah.
I worked in Silicon Valley for a while. There's a game they play there where if you see someone in the street in Silicon Valley and they're homeless, the trick is, are they a millionaire or are they actually homeless? Because you can't tell most of the time. But to reflect on that, we have a client of ours who's up on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. They service the mining sector. It's only a very small organisation. They have fixed-wing and rotary-wing aircraft, and they service Western Australia, Queensland, Fiji, oddly enough, and WA. And what the guy wanted was to be able to keep a track of where his aircraft were at any point in time. This is the CEO. He spends a lot of time on his yacht, apparently. They do quite well, those guys, the fly-in, fly-out roles. And so he got a software company in Brisbane to quote him to build something. It was $30,000. He got another one to quote him. It was about $25,000. And then for $8,000, he got two guys from the Sunshine Coast University. And what they built was an app which sits on his iPad. It's got all his aircraft. And if the aircraft's in the air, you tap on the aircraft and it brings up where it is. It brings up Google Maps, tells you how fast it's flying, who's on board, prevailing weather conditions, how much fuel is in it, who's sitting in what seat, what's in the inventory, is it on time or not on time. $8,000. And then he can hand that on to the mining company that he serves. Can people see how transformational that is? It completely changes how that organisation winds up seeing him. And again, it's absolutely not reduced by someone from the outside. Now, we're going to get some questions coming in from online, but also I want you to think about that in here as well. But I wanted just to go to one more and get sort of a thumbs up or a thumbs down perspective on you. What's the driver? Is it productivity to get improved service, or is it productivity to reduce cost? What drives you, and what do you think gets the better bang for the buck? Interested in comments from all of you.
Well, for us over at KingCare, it's productivity to improve customer service. I mean, at the end of the day, if your customers are happy with you, they will come back to use your service. In our industry, there's a consumer-directed care that's coming, and it's imminent in our industry, where in the past, you lock into a service provider, and you're there for life. You didn't really have a choice where to spend your funding. Starting this year, consumer-directed care means that the customer can choose. So for us, using technology to make sure that the customer always continues to use us is the most important.
Right. So one for drawing the customer to you. Anybody want to plumb on saving costs? Or is that a happy accident, as they call it?
No, from my perspective, they go hand in hand. So from my perspective, productivity is about delivering better outcomes for less.
Yeah.
Right. So now, as I mentioned, what you do with that benefit, whether you bank it or reinvest it, is entirely up to you, and that's a business strategy decision. But ultimately, it's about achieving both at the same time.
Yeah. Anyone would tend to agree with that? All right. Well, let's just turn it just slightly to one side. What's more important for an organisation, for each of you, when you think about it? Efficiency or agility in what you do? Which wins? There's no prizes involved here. No one's going to win a car, everybody. So what do you think? Would efficiency be? What do you think, Brendan?
I think in my market, I'd say the agility to actually move with the actual market requests.
Yeah.
For our company to actually increase market share, we need to actually extend ourselves to markets we haven't previously been able to cater to. So therefore, to be quick to move in a highly regulated industry such as CPAs and such as Jerome's in as well, we need to be able to move with regulations, but more so than that, move with the actual what the customer demands. And if we don't, we don't progress.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Other views on that?
I'm going to be back on the fence again, say both. And why I think that is because I think when you're looking at new technologies to roll out, obviously the technologies available these days are not something that you develop yourself. They're freely available. They're out in the market. I think the people who win the best are the people who are the best at execution and the best at getting people to rally behind some of the changes. As Nick said before, it's not technology that changes business. People change business, and the technology helps them. So I think that in fostering that, you want to be first to market, you want to be ahead of your competitors, which drives the agility, but you also want to make sure that you have a competitive advantage in the efficiency. So
yeah, okay.
Just relating that back to our industry in the accountants world, the efficiency is being gained using technology to drive down compliance costs, which is what a lot of our work is.
Yeah.
Now, whether we like that or not, that's happening, and it's commoditising what we do. So therefore, being agile and being able to actually think of outside of what we've had to do in the past, and being able to think about what it is we like to do or what it is our customers want, I think is a huge advantage. So you can actually specify and specialise in areas in which you can actually add value to your customer at the same time as getting something which is compliance-based and regulated, efficient. So again, probably with Brendan there, and a bit of both.
Specifically, with something like Xero in the market, which is doing tremendous stock return, it's just won a Global Innovation Award, it's beautiful software. What does that do in terms of a CPA role? Does it suddenly question